Hi again. In this lecture, we're going to explore how to scrape some data from Reddit. And then in this and in the next lecture, we're going to apply a tool called sentiment analysis, another common approach in natural language processing. In short, sentiment analysis tries to decipher whether a tweet or a Reddit post or a review is positive or neutral or negative. So we're going to use the PRAW library to get some data from Reddit, and then in the next lecture we're going to apply our sentiment analysis tools to this data. If you want to follow along in this notebook, you'll need to sign up for a Reddit account yourself. It's free, it takes about 5 minutes. You're going to need to get what's called a client ID and a client secret. You can follow the instructions right here, how to create that for yourself. You can also apply these tools to Twitter, and in fact that's what I did when I taught this course before. But in the meantime, Elon Musk took over. The API for Twitter is no longer free for academic use, and so this is why we switched to Reddit for this course. But if you're interested in exploring Twitter in more detail, I highly recommend the book by my colleague, Zachary Steinert-Thrugfeld, here in the Luskin School, called Twitter as Data. So the PRAW library is what we'll use to provide easy access to Reddit. And so you will just copy and paste your own client ID and your client secret here. And then this is any text that just identifies you to the Reddit API. And then we're going to create this Reddit object, which has several methods. First of all, we can use this Reddit object to get new posts and to loop over them. So let's say we want to get 10 posts from the urban planning subreddit. So I'm going to use a Reddit subreddit function to urban planning, and then get the 10 most recent posts. And then for each of these submissions, I'm going to print its title. So if you're interested in a career change, if you're interested in the obscure maritime law that ruins your commute, go and check out these Reddit posts. So this submission object, we'll just have access to the last one here, provides access to more detailed information on the posts. So we can see the attributes. We just looked at the title a moment ago, but you can also see the author, comments, the ID, and lots of other potentially useful attributes. So for example, we can see the number of comments. So this last submission on, what was it? It was on, is there a type of writing sample you prefer to see? Has 6 comments attached. Well, what are they? Well, let's loop over the comments and print the body of them. So some advice on writing style. So comments are nested within submissions, but each comment also has further attributes. You can also see the author of the comment, whether it's edited, and the ID of the parent comment, and so on. So there's lots of levels you can go down in this tree of Reddit submissions and then comments on these submissions. So let's put this all in a function, and let's try and extract all the comments into a single list without worrying too much about which submission they're associated with. And we're going to look at 3 public transit subreddits, LA Metro, BART, and Rail in New York City. These aren't official, and these vary in terms of their activity and who's on them, so they're not necessarily comparable across the 3 cities, but very useful start to see what type of data we can extract. So I've defined a function here, and I'm going to pass the name of my subreddit, like Urban Planning or LA Metro. I'm going to define an entry list, and then I'm going to loop over the 50 new posts, or 50 most recent submissions. And I'm going to append the title of this submission to our empty list here. And then I could distinguish between the comments and the submission title, but I'm just going to add them to the same list. So for each of these submission comments, this is a list comprehension, which will create another list, and then I'm going to add it to my R list, and then print how many comments I retrieved. So let's see what this looks like if we get the posts from LA Metro, and then we can do the same for the BART subreddit and the New York City Rail subreddit. So now let's save these comments to a file. And we'll use a pickle. We've seen this in earlier modules. This can save most Python objects in their original format. We could have also have looped over them and saved them as text, but if we're just doing temporary storage, a pickle is sometimes easier. So with we're going to call it LA Metro pickle. We're going to write it as a binary file rather than text. And we're just going to dump the LA Metro object to our F object here. And let's do the same for BART and the same for New York City Rail. So these are going to be in your GitHub repository, and we'll pick up these data in the next lecture and see how we can use them to analyze the sentiment of the Reddit posts. But we have only scratched the surface of the PRAW library. And so on your own, I'd ask you to explore the documentation for further examples. How can you filter the results? For example, you could search for all posts within a subreddit that mention rent or eviction if you're interested in doing an analysis of rental housing. You can access a number of upvotes and much more. But we're going to leave our Reddit scraping here. What I'd leave you with is that Reddit has this powerful API, which is actually very easy to use once you register and you get the client secret and the client ID. But remember, Reddit, like any social media site, it's not a representation of the real world. And whether these biases about who uses Reddit and who posts what on Reddit matter, that is something you to evaluate depending on the use case of your particular project.